I'm gonna show you something beautiful. Everyone screaming for mercy. You want to protect the world, but you don't want it to change. You're all puppets, tangled in strings. It's the end. The end of the path I started us on.
Nothing lasts forever.
Man, that shot of Ultron is so badass that it's not even in the actual movie. Which, in any other case, that would be the biggest "oh fuck you" moment of this whole film. But this movie's pretty badass, regardless. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. We've only got one big new release for the first day of May 2015. It's the summer movie season, summer 2015, and this is one of those summers, and it comes around every once in a while, where the studios just put all the stops out, get some of the biggest franchises out there, and just goes ahead and just says, here you go, people. We're opening the floodgates, because not only do we have Avengers, we have a Mad Max movie coming up later in the month, we have a Mission Impossible movie coming up later in the summer, we've got sequels to Ted, Magic Mike, Jurassic Park is coming back with a new movie, but this time it's not just a park, we're going all around the world. Not really. The park actually opens, it's called Jurassic World, but we have the Minions in their own movie, so there is a lot of things coming out this summer that had a lot of high expectations, and for the most part, they all lived up to the hype. Avengers Age of Ultron is definitely one of those ones where it's an interesting scenario, but this is, of course, the sequel to the 2012 movie that was kind of a game changer a couple years ago when you had all of these superheroes that they had been building up for the last couple of movies coming together in this one big blockbuster epic that we thought we were never going to see again. So, how do you recreate that magic again the second time? And I'll tell you this, it wasn't as easy, and I'll touch on that in a little bit here, but in this movie, when Tony Stark tries to jumpstart a dormant peacekeeping program, things go awry, and Earth's mightiest heroes, including Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, are put to the ultimate test as the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. As the villainous Ultron, voiced by James Spader, emerges, it is up to the Avengers to stop him from enacting his terrible plans, and soon uneasy alliances and unexpected action paves the way for a global adventure. And really, this is all Tony Stark's fault, because he was still having those flashbacks from what he saw from the first movie, and that kind of continued in Iron Man 3. So there is a little bit of a continuance from the previous movies that kind of plays a big part in this. I mean, Tony was basically doing this to try to, he was trying to do this for the greater good, but of course, the greater good doesn't usually work out in favor in this case here, because, what he tries to do goes completely awry. But, like I said, with a movie as incredible as amazing The Avengers was, expectations were soaring high for this. When they announced that this was coming out, and the trailers definitely promised us a much bigger, more compelling story to come for these characters, which would be fine, except we need to remember the old saying that bigger doesn't always mean better. And I did enjoy this movie. As much as I love the first film, at the same time, though, it didn't have that memorability as the first movie did. Now, what do I mean by that? I just said I liked it as much as the first film, but I don't think it's as memorable as the first film. And again, you gotta go back to what the first Avengers movie was able to do. What made that movie great? You got to see characters that you saw being built up. Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Hulk, all these great comic book characters coming together in this one movie with these spectacular action sequences unlike anything that had never been done up to that point. A very simple story with a great memorable villain in Loki, Tom Hiddleston. A lot of great comedic elements, great comedic one-liners, and the sense of something huge and epic, including that theme song by the great Alan Silvestri, who, of course, legendary composer, Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I don't need to talk about his great accomplishments. It's a classic movie, and at the time, it was one of Marvel's greatest achievements overall. And in the sequel, you get to see the superheroes again, many of them back together once again, and that's good. Their chemistry still works very solidly. I like the fact that they do have off-time moments when they're not fighting crime and simply just going around just talking to one another. Like, there's a scene where they literally put Thor's hammer into the thing, and Thor says, whoever can grab this is as mighty as I am, or something like that. And the funny thing is, everyone tries to do it, but it's not possible, except for Captain America, when you see it move a little bit here, not knowing that that was actually going to play into the big part of the Avengers Endgame later on, when we find out that Captain America is indeed worthy of holding on to the mighty hammer. But you know, the action sequences are still very good. They may be a little bit overkill because there was a lot of them this time around, but still, they're still very good. The biggest problem, I think, is that the story is kind of all over the place. You got these little things they're setting up in this movie. Like, you get a sense of a little bit of Black Widow's backstory that we'll get more into when we get to the Black Widow movie. There's, like, little segments, like Thor goes off and teams up with Stellan Skarsgård, who, I'll say this is definitely much better in this movie than he was presented in Thor: The Dark World. At least, he's not running around embarrassing himself like he was in that movie. But, you know, I mean, the villain is great. I mean, you got a great-looking villain in Ultron alone, but James Spader, keep in mind, this was back when The Blacklist was just starting, a show that really works because he is so damn good as Raymond Reddington on that show. And, you know, you got that distinctive voice to him, to this villain. He's great. I mean, he has a lot of really good moments in this movie. I'll touch on that a little bit here, but, I mean, you know, everything about this movie does work overall. They do try to go more epic and excellent, but once again, bigger doesn't always mean better. So before I touch on the negatives, I'll touch on the positive stuff. Once again, the cast is great. I like the fact that they do have those scenes where they're not just fighting crime, but just really talking and just playing games with one another with Thor's hammer, just having conversations. That's some good stuff. I like the new characters they have in here. We got the introduction of course, Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch, and Aaron Taylor-Johnson playing Quicksilver, and they work very well with the material given to them. I actually prefer this Quicksilver to the one that was in Days of Future Past, but like I said, the real highlight of the movie is Ultron, and again, with that great voice by James Spader, that great look he has, stylistic, that voice fits that menacing tone that he has, but at the same time, they do give him a little bit of a sense of humor. I mean, he really does come off as Tony Stark, if Stark was more evil and sadistic. I like the fact that they gave Paul Bettany's character more to do by making him the Vision. I mean, he actually is a pretty good addition to the team, and the way that they combine his Jarvis with this creation is really well done. It's a really good effect overall. The action sequences, while they're not epic, art, and spectacular the first movie is, they are still pretty impressive. I like the opening battle scene, although the effects definitely could have used a little bit more of a touch to them, so, I mean, we'll delve into that a little bit later on here with the effects and all. The action scenes in between are very good. I like the Hulkbuster scene overall, especially watching Tony repeatedly punching Hulk in the face 1,000,006 times in the scene where Tony uses the elevator to go knock the Hulk down, and Hulk just gives him the oh hell no, and totally goes, I'm sorry, and then he just goes start fighting again. Like, stuff like that is very fun and all. Also, with the action sequences, especially towards the end, you could tell that Marvel was trying to show DC how to do an action sequence, unlike what Man of Steel did, where they destroyed the city. I mean, yeah, in Man of Steel, yeah, Superman's making out with Lois Lane in the ditch with hundreds of dead bodies and debris from building. That's still pretty damn distasteful, but in here, it makes sense. It doesn't feel forced in, but brought in to prove a point that there's a right way and a wrong way to do a scene like that, where you level a city, and Marvel, I think, did it the right way. I like some of the new elements they threw into the story, where you have, you know, we delve more into Hawkeye's family, which is one of the more intriguing things about the movie, because you get to see Hawkeye's wife in this, played by Linda Cardellini, and they don't give her a cliche purpose like the bad guy will find them and all that. It's just like, they just give you a chance to see what Hawkeye is like when he's not playing a superhero, and I think that's pretty cool. I think the most interesting aspect of the movie that I thought was going to lead to something was the relationship between Black Widow and Bruce Banner, which makes the reasoning behind why we haven't had a new Hulk movie in the cinematic universe more reasonable, mainly because how do you explain Bruce's relationship with Betty Ross now that this is going on? But I thought it was kind of cool what they were setting up with Black Widow finding a way to calm Bruce down to a simple form of meditation. I thought that was kind of cool, led to some nice emotional moments. I thought that that's what they were going to do going forward with the series in general, but they kind of abandoned that after this, man. That's the thing. They abandoned things pretty quickly in the MCU, I'm starting to realize. And they did this right back when they were still at their peak overall, because, yeah, they set this whole thing up, and then it's never mentioned again except for a gag in one movie. And that's about it, but it's just like, why even have that in there if you're not going to do anything with it? But then again, like I said, the MCU has had a lot of things that they brought into as teasers, and like, well, oh, this is going to happen in the future, and then it doesn't happen. But it does lead to a lot of the problems I have with the film. First off, the effects in parts of the film, particularly the opening action scene, and even Black Widow's flashback, were kind of just weird. There's a part in the opening where, Scarlet Witch knocks Captain America out, and then the editing of her walking out of the room just gets off. Like, she starts moving backwards, and it's in fast forward. Like, it felt like Sam Raimi took direction of the movie for a second, like something out of Army of Darkness or The Evil Dead, which is funny, of course, because Sam Raimi would direct a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It just really felt out of place here, though. And then in Black Widow's flashback, when Scarlet Witch controls her mind, there are parts of the flashback that look like something out of a horror movie, such as Kids Without Mouths and a creepy laboratory feel. Like, it feels so out of place here and just does not feel like it needs to be in this movie. Second, there's really no transformation of Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk in this. Most of the time, Bruce just turns into the Hulk off screen. And, like, he'll be pushed off to the side. In the same shot, the Hulk will pop up. It's just like, I mean, we don't even get one Hulk transformation scene. At least the last one did so well. I mean, the stuff you remember from from the Avengers, I mean, that was amazing. Like, the scene where, at the end, when they're in the battle, there's a whole thing where Cap's just like, now would be a good time to get angry, Dr. Banner. And he's just like, that's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry, and then just slowly turns into the Hulk. Like, that's great. I mean, that's probably they probably didn't have the time to put in all the visual effects in this, but of all the things to miss out on, the Hulk transforming is kind of the one that's kind of extremely important to do. A small thing that did kind of bother me was also that when Black Widow reveals her backstory and revealed that they took out her ability to have kids, just like, I mean, that felt really dark, and I get that you need to go dark a little bit here, but at the same time, there's really no reason to have that in there for no particular reason. It just feels kind of lost in there. Like, I mean, you have to up the ante, and go for a darker edge, but they just throw it as kind of a throwaway line, and just kind of like, it almost never works that way. My biggest problem with the movie, and judging from what I've seen from a lot of people, was the fact that, yeah, the story is way too complicated. I mean, the first Avengers movie did keep it very simple. It was a story about getting the Avengers team together to defeat Loki's evil plans by settling their differences and going after the bad guy. There's way too much story going on in this movie. Too many subplots piling onto one another to keep our attention. And the first movie did have a lot going on, but it kept it simple and easy to follow. I get why they have to add so many stories here, because they're setting up future Marvel movies. I get that, but look at what happened the last time they tried to do that with Iron Man 2. What was the biggest complaint? Setting up stuff for a movie that we didn't even know was going to happen. That was basically a long commercial simply for the Avengers. Hell, Spider-Man 3 was like that too. And look at how that series turned out once that movie got made. Like, Andy Serkis's Ulysses Klaue, who is going to be the bad guy in Black Panther in a couple years' time, only shows up in this movie for 2 minutes for no reason except to tease that Black Panther is in there. I don't even think they cast Black Panther yet. If they didn't, they were close to doing it. I think it was somewhere around that time, because, I mean, I'm trying to think, because they didn't even cast Spider-Man yet, and the next one after this is going to be Captain America Civil War. So, I don't know. I don't know if they casted... I can't remember if they casted Spider-Man first or Black Panther, but, I mean, we know that this is coming up, but just don't stop the movie to just tease something that's coming up, really. It's just like, be like Neil from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Have a point. It makes things so much more interesting for the listener. And, really the same could be said for the Thanos end credit scene too, but of course we now know that Thanos end credit scene was pointless back then, but now that we know what that eventually leads to here, I mean, it's not as bad as I remember it, but, I mean, lastly, you can definitely get the sense that Joss Whedon really was reluctant to return for Avengers 2, because how do you top something great with a follow-up film? It's not easy to do, and it's very rarely ever paid off. When I see Whedon's returning to this, I get those visions of something like a Sam Raimi returning to Spider-Man 3, or Jon Favreau returning to Iron Man 2, or J.J. Abrams with Star Trek Into Darkness. All three of them were considering not returning to those films, mostly because they were afraid they couldn't deliver an equally as good project as their previous effort was, but eventually stayed on with the projects they were attached to. And while those movies aren't the worst ever made, They're definitely lesser than the predecessors are, which would explain why Whedon wouldn't return for Infinity War, and instead they got the directors of The Winter Soldier to work on those films. You know, but, I mean, overall, I do think this is a good movie. It's a good, fun summer escapism movie to kick off the season. I did enjoy it. I thought it was a lot of fun. A lot of the elements that made the first film great are in here. But they tried as hard as they could to make something equally as good as the original, and I think they did a very good job mostly. But yeah, it doesn't have that whole memorability and quality to it that the first film does. I thought the first film just had a lot of things that, you know, it's going to be hard to top whatever you do there. But luckily, the next two movies will fix that and then some, but we've still got a little bit of time before we get to that. This film in particular felt less put together than the first film did. The first one felt better handled, a lot of great one-liners, a great connection with the cast, and amazing action sequences. A lot of that magic is still there, but it's not enough to make this memorable as the first film. I still did really enjoy this movie, but it's nowhere near as good as the first film was. I think you can still have a good time with it. Take it for what it is, and you can have a good time with Avengers: Age of Ultron. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. The summer movie season is getting underway. And next time around, we'll take a look at 2 more summer movies, including what was supposed to be the first big summer comedy of the year with Reese Witherspoon and Sofia Vergara in Hot Pursuit, which, did not turn out as well as I think they wanted it to do. But we also have Arnold Schwarzenegger starring alongside Abigail Breslin in the zombie film Maggie. And we also have Jack Black and James Marsden in The D Train. That's a film that came in between those 2 films. So 3 films overall to take a look at next time around. So we'll definitely delve into those movies coming up on the next episode tomorrow. So with all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.